Start off by talking about them and to our guests, Darren Lewis and Micah Richards. Righty, first of all, look, it's a historic win for Crystal Palace. We've got to give positives to Crystal Palace first of all. But for Manchester United, it was a poor performance. It was a poor result. Is it too early to start talking about doom and gloom at Old Trafford?
I don't think it's ever too early to start. I'll put it in context. It's not too early simply because of who they are and the opportunities they've had to try and make sure that they get it right. I think that with what happened with Bruno Fernandes, he came in and gave the whole place a lift. And I think what that done, it kind of papered over the fact that there's still a lot to be done there in respect of their creativity, the movement up front, the fact that for me, the centre-halves, the goalkeeper's been a problem. We're talking about Luke Shaw and the fact that he hasn't really contributed to. So when you look at it, no, it's not too early. And if I'm a Man United fan, I'm probably frustrated simply because of the opportunities they've. Even if we look at this Jadon Sancho, sign Jadon Sancho, right? Sign Jadon Sancho, because what you're doing now, you're going to wait and what? You're going to get another hammering. And then you say, oh, you're going to do it in desperation. He's worth the money for what he's done. You missed out on Erling Haaland simply because they were saying that, we're not sure. And look what he's done. So, no, it's not too early, Kels. It's not too early at all for me.
Is it also, Micah, because of the problems that Righty's pointed out, they're long-standing ones rather than ones that have just come about over the close season or just at the start of this one?
No, I think with United, for me, they've always been a club that get the signings. Mm-hmm. Righty said then, go and get the signings. What are Man United waiting for? Mm. And they talk about competing with the Manchester Cities and the Liverpools of the world, but you can't even secure Sancho. Uh-oh. So, it shows to me, and look, we're not hitting the panic button just yet. I think that's, over-egging it a little bit, but this is Man United we talk about. You talk to Man United fan, oh, we're the best club in England. Well, you might have been, but people are catching you up and taking you over a little bit. It was Man United, Liverpool too, but now Liverpool are they're taking that throne again. And for me, I've always had a rivalry with Man United because of Manchester City. But
you're a Leeds boy as well.
Yeah, and I'm a Leeds boy as well. But I want to see Man United being able to get these players because we want all these big clubs to be able to attract this. And for me, something's going wrong there. Look, I'm not in, and I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but it's clear for everyone to see that there's problems there.
Are they bigger problems than just the ones that everybody's having to deal with? Obviously, nothing's a bigger problem than this pandemic at the moment, but in terms of the financial impact that it's having on clubs, how much is that affecting Manchester United?
I don't think it's affecting the biggest clubs in the country. Man United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. I think as far as their ability to source and finance players, it's up there. The problem, what's been quite consistent over the last few seasons, is that Manchester United try to play hardball with football clubs and end up paying the money. And they are not great negotiators. And I know Patrice Evra talked about a couple of the people behind the scenes at the club who are not doing a good enough job. Not football people, they are commercial, they're business people. And I think that's part of the problem.
And do that job exceptionally well.
Well, indeed. And I think when it comes to doing the football job and making footballing decisions, fans are not happy, and that's quite key, Kelly, because a lot of people think that it's being driven by the media, but fans in Manchester are very, very vocal and very forensic about the problems that are going on at the club. And so when you look at other clubs, they've either spent more, brought in better quality, or have left themselves in a good position. You said, Ian, before, they had a good run at the end of last season, 14 Premier League games that they were undefeated. But here's the problem. They should have built on that momentum. And they didn't do that. Waiting for as long as they have done does make it look as though they are panicking. And they are in a position that other clubs are able to take advantage of.
Yeah, having had that run and working on the goodwill around them or the good feeling around them from the arrival of Bruno Fernandes would have been a time to try and seal any of those players that they were interested in. When you look at how much Manchester United have spent, and they have brought in Donny van der Beek in this transfer window, but when you look at the comparison between what they've spent and what the other clubs around them have spent, and Manchester United, which is a point we should come back to as well, nobody's gone out of the club either, which maybe is something we need to touch on a bit later on. But can you understand why Manchester United fans would be frustrated?
Absolutely, yeah, because like we've said, they did. When he came in, there was an unbelievable upsurge in their quality, because what he done was he kind of like when Bergkamp came to Arsenal, he gave everybody a lift. We saw a different player in Manchester United's midfield, and he started to create. They created more. He was scoring, a few penalties, I'll give it, but the fact is he was somebody that gave them that creative kind of burst that they needed. Now, when you only have to look at what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is doing in respect of tactics. I don't see what Man United's pattern of play is.
Yeah, that's quite key, because if you look at that graphic, you've had Arsenal spent less than Manchester United. I was about to say you, but Arsenal spent less than Manchester United. But if you look at Arsenal, they look disciplined, they look organised, they look as though they've moved on under Arteta. If you look at Manchester United, it isn't just the bad results on the pitch, it's the situation with Greenwood, it's a situation with Harry Maguire, then you factor in the transfer situation, and it's a perfect storm of problems for Manchester United. It isn't just about out and spending money, and that's why they have they need to solve this in some way, shape or form that gets them out of this little period with some degree of optimism. At the moment, there is none, really.
Van der Beek, for me, was a panic buy. He's got good ability. I've watched loads of clips of him, and he is a good player. I'm not saying that, but be proactive and get these problems sorted before. Ollie probably thought, let's see how they do. You know what I mean? And then, but them problems already needed addressing. Last season, and then listen. Donny van der Beek will be a good player for Man United as time, because he's a quality player. Is he what they need right now? You know what I mean? Delighted for him. But Upamecano, yes, 21. He's probably desperate to go somewhere like a Manchester United. Why aren't they doing that deal? Especially when you watch how Harry Maguire and Lindelof played the other day. We know that the goalkeeper, I think Henderson coming in there, it's not going to help De Gea. I think it's going to put him under the kind of pressure, knowing that there's somebody that's going to cause him problems. And I think that we're going to see more mistakes out of him. But why aren't they doing that deal? Why aren't they going and doing that deal? Why aren't they doing the Sancho deal? They are dithering. And what's going to happen is, like Michael said, they are going to get caught up and passed. For me, and it's blatantly obvious to me, you've got someone like Michael Emenalo, who's at Chelsea. He's won 3 Premier Leagues under 3 different managers. He's won the Champions League. He's helped oversee the loan system and the academy system at Chelsea. We're talking about a director of football that knows exactly what he's doing. You look at that, and we're talking about under Abramovich with 3 different managers, and he's still managed, because he's a football man, to get the job done. And this is why when Chelsea, what happened with Chelsea is that when we say, another manager's coming, but they're still winning trophies. This is the thing, because he's put what's the word?
A culture.
He's put a culture and a
template
involved, where they can just put that player in, bring that manager in, and they can go forward and do it. That's what Man United need, and that is what they haven't got. And that is the elephant.
It's remarkable to think that Emenalo doesn't have a job when he could go and do that job at Manchester United. And the thing that dovetails him with the United is their faith and persistence in bringing through young talent. We know they have got a long tradition of doing that. He could do that job.
Absolutely.
The thing about Man United that strikes me most is that, as you rightly say, they are looking at players for my money they don't need. They need central defenders, because if you're a striker, I remember the goal Bergwijn scored against United just after the lockdown, and he left the centre-backs for dead. Now, Jonathan Norcroft in the Sunday Times last weekend, he made his best line of the weekend, where he said, if Victor Lindelof were a bouncer at a nightclub, there would be many unwanted people in his nightclub, because he would not be able to keep them out. And, he is so slow. And I think as far as United are concerned, whatever they are trying to do, they will not be able to do until they solve their central defensive problems. Whether it's Upamecano, whether it's Kalidou Koulibaly. I mean, Upamecano would probably be a better bet, because he would fit in with the profile of player that historically in the last 20 years they've gone for. Koulibaly is a leader. He is somebody who's proven himself over a sustained period of time in Italy, and I think he would slot into that defence. But they do need more pace in that defence. You
know, the thing is, sorry, I mentioned it like Donny van der Beek. He's somebody that I wish that someone like Arsenal could have taken, because when you look at Pogba, what he's doing, and you look at Bruno Fernandes, that is Donny van der Beek. Donny van der Beek's, that's his position. So people are thinking they're going to see Van der Beek, Fernandes, and I don't think that's going to happen, because as much as he can play the numbers, that's not his preferred position to play. So again, spend the money You know what I mean? Yeah, he's a great player, and yes, take him, but you still got to look for the players that you know are going to improve your team.
I just wonder if there's a comparison in terms, particularly of the central defence for Manchester United, with Manchester City, where you could argue that the Manchester United hierarchy could say, well, you spent the money on Harry Maguire, you brought him in for tens of millions of pounds, you've got a really expensive central defender, what more do you want? Whereas at City, when Pep Guardiola brought in defenders that were expensive, that were 50 million plus, they said, well, if it's not working, that's fine, go again, go and buy again. Taking into account the different financial models at the club, is that what Manchester United need to do more of?
You know what? I was a big fan of Harry Maguire, and I know he went for a lot of money. It was £75 million.
80.
Or 85 million.
We can't leave that 10 out.
I thought that was euros. I tried to help you.
You tried to help him out.
But I don't think Harry Maguire is as bad as people are making him out. I think when he was at Leicester, it's less pressure. He's in the spotlight now. But when you've got two players who they've not played enough games together, and they don't know if we're going Barley, and like he's making Harry Maguire look worse, and they need to get that situation sorted out, because Man City have had players who bought Kyle Walker 50 million, Mendy 50 million, Cancelo 60 million, but it was a swap as well for Danilo. And the scrutiny on these players to perform is massive. I think Harry Maguire, like Darren said, the off-field problems as well that he's had it's just more scrutinised on him. I actually think if he had someone alongside him, like you mentioned, Koulibaly, I think he would be all right. But to just leave him and Lindelof, don't forget we got Smalling as well. Smalling had a terrific season at Roma. Yeah. Jones as well. And I just think that they should have sorted it out. And when these players come for these sort of monies, it's always difficult.
Yeah, but Micah, the thing with Harry Maguire and being at Leicester, Hull before, is that I believe that his game is the same as it was. Yes. But like you say, maybe had players that get what didn't highlight, but he made those same mistakes. He gets himself too square sometimes. You know what I mean? He pulls himself out of position. You can get him behind him. Those things are down to coaching. I know that we're talking about money, but if they're coaching him right, as a footballer, coming out perfect, but defensively, you know, the top teams will annihilate those two as centre halves.
That's so true. If you look at somebody like David Luiz, I was in Munich last year with Chelsea pre-season. David Luiz had an awful game. And after the game, he was talking about the fact that, don't worry, we're Chelsea, even though we got the transfer ban, we'll be okay. And then the next week he was gone. And he was at Arsenal. But when he went to Arsenal during the first half of the season, he was abysmal under Unai Emery. The second half of the season, he was coached. And you could see the discipline, the organisation and the leadership and the way that he was able to become one of the sum of the parts. And that's the big difference. And that's why there is so much more cause for optimism at Arsenal than there is at Man United. Because under Arteta, there is a clear direction, there is an organisation, there is a discipline as well that there is just not at United. And people say, well, Twitter is going crazy and you can't listen to Twitter. Ollie Holt last weekend did a magnificent match report, actually. It wasn't even a column, it's a match report. And he said their managing director was on Twitter boasting about the capture of Igalo and how it was a top trend on Twitter. And there was a very key line in there where he said, you can't feed the beast and condemn it at the same time. And he's absolutely right. If you are going to set your stall, if you're going to use social media as a barometer for how you're doing, you cannot criticise it if it looks at you and says, look, you're not doing well enough in the transfer market. You're not doing well enough on the pitch. You're not doing well enough in terms of discipline because your players keep getting into difficult situations.